So, a few days ago, NBC announced they're canceling Stumble after one season. And to be honest, I'm not shocked. I'm just tired. Because every cheerleading show that's come out over the last 15-ish years follows the same pattern. The show comes out, there's a group of people who really love it and get excited, the show actually has something going for it, and then it gets canceled after its first season. And it's not like cheerleading doesn't have an audience. Bring It On came out in 2000, and people are still quoting it to this day. Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders Making the Team ran for 16 seasons on CMT before Netflix rebooted it as America's Sweethearts. The docuseries Cheer was a full cultural moment in 2020. And while I know it's not directly cheerleading, UDA Nationals routines go viral every single year, and there's a pom category. So people love cheer and love watching cheer and love rooting for cheer. But why does fictional cheerleading television keep failing? Because the docuseries side is doing just fine. There was the Cheer Squad back in 2016 and also the Spirit miniseries last year. But it's specifically scripted cheer that can't seem to land. And they've tried every format. The CW teen drama with Hellcats, the prestige crime drama with Dare Me, and most recently mockumentary comedy on NBC with Stumble. I don't think I can sit here and tell you definitively why it doesn't seem to work, but I have watched all these shows, and I was rooting for all these shows. So today I want to give these shows their flowers, talk about what they did right and what I loved about them. And also, no spoilers. Let's get into it. So for Hellcats, we have to go back to 2010, where the CW is in its golden era of teen drama with Gossip Girl and Vampire Diaries, 90210, One Tree Hill. Huge shows for the network. And the CW's looking around and going, okay, what's our next thing? Hellcats premiered September 2010, only 10 years after Bring It On came out. Cheerleading still had some cultural cachet with the Bring It On franchise having put out 4 direct-to-DVD sequels. And obviously the CW knew exactly how to make a teen drama, so in theory the show should have been a hit. The show is loosely based on Kate Turgovnik's novel, Cheer Inside the Secret World of College Cheerleaders, and the premise follows Ali Machaca of Ali and AJ fame, who plays Marty, a pre-law student who has to join her university's cheer squad to keep her scholarship. We also got Ashley Tisdale, fresh off High School Musical, who also turned down the role of Elena Gilbert from the Vampire Diaries for this. So yikes. Anyways, with Ashley Tisdale and Ali Machaca, you got built-in name recognition for the Disney Channel demographic, which was the CW's whole audience. Because naturally, audience members would start on Disney Channel, and then as you got older, you started transitioning into the CW. We also had Sharon Leal, who maybe wasn't as mainstream famous, but was definitely what we call Black famous, having done This Christmas, Why'd I Get Married, Soulman, and Dreamgirls, all before this show came out. With Hellcats, kind of like what Glee did with Show Choir, this show shined the spotlight on college cheerleading, just obviously not nearly to that level of impact. Also comparable to Pitch Perfect and Acapella, even though Pitch Perfect came out 2 years later. Speaking of Pitch Perfect, the show follows a very similar structure, where we have our Becca, aka Marty, who's this cool, edgy main character who initially thinks she's too cool to join this group, but one thing leads to another, they have her join and falls in love with it. The sweet, bubbly, heavily invested Savannah, who's kind of like the Chloe, is the one who wants to bring our main character in and help her adjust to the group. Then we have the head bitch in charge, Alice, who's like the Aubrey, who has it out for the main character and doesn't like to embrace change, etc, etc. So again, not saying this is an inherently unique structure, but some comparisons were quite striking. I wonder if Hellcats helped pave the way for Pitch Perfect. Something to think about. But anyways, Hellcats was a really fun show. They had real athletes in the cast, so the routines felt real and complex and riveting. The show really committed to cheerleading being the thing the show is about, with characters part of the team for various reasons, and we follow the team as they try to reach nationals. It also took place in college, which again is so rare, because for some reason, TV execs are just so obsessed with high school. But unfortunately, the ratings just kept dropping. It premiered very strongly, with the pilot averaging about 3 million viewers, but the ratings fell rapidly as the series progressed, and by the 19th episode, the show had hit a series low with less than 1 million viewers, and the finale was watched by 1.16 million. I think Hellcats might have just been ahead of its time, honestly. It was trying to be a cheer-specific teen drama in an era where the CW had a ton of teen dramas, and viewers are maybe already spread thin. There also wasn't really a huge cheer cultural moment happening, because Bring It On was old enough to feel like nostalgia, but not old enough to feel like a comeback. And competitive cheer hadn't yet had its mainstream breakthrough that would come a decade later with Cheer. So, in 2010, on a network already saturated with teen dramas, it just couldn't carve out enough of its own audience to survive. Okay, so Dare Me is a totally different beast. This is not a teen drama in the CW sense, but it's something more like a moody, atmospheric, slow burn crime thriller that just happens to take place in the world of competitive high school cheerleading. It premiered in December 2019 on USA Network, co-produced with Netflix, who had international streaming rights. It was based on the 2012 Megan Abbott novel of the same name, with Abbott herself co-writing and executive producing, along with showrunner Gina Fattore, who had produced Dawson's Creek and Gilmore Girls. So you can say she knew a thing or two about how to make a teen drama. Peter Berg of Friday Night Lights also executive produced, which makes complete sense because the show does give me at least a little bit of Friday Night Lights vibes. And the show was good, like really good. We follow Willa Fitzgerald, who plays Coach Colette French, who shows up at Sutton Grove High School as the new cheer coach and immediately disrupts the dynamic between the two best friends. Addie, played by Hirazine Gurdiola, and Beth, the captain, played by Marlo Kelly. And then there's this crime that happens in this town, and the whole season is this slow burn unraveling how everyone is or is not connected to it. What made Dare Me different from every other cheerleading show is that cheer isn't the main event, it's just the setting. It's the world these characters live in, and while we do see cheerleading, the show isn't really about that. It's more about the power dynamics, friendship, jealousy, the weird intensity of teenage girls' relationships with each other, and with the adults who are supposed to be guiding them. It also highlights how cheerleading is this pressure cooker that brings all of that to the surface. Also, the writing felt really raw, like it didn't talk down to these characters or treat them as one-dimensional mean girls. Beth, in particular, is very compelling. Addie and Beth's friendship also feels really real and complicated and a little bit frightening. Coach French is a character you can't quite figure out, and it's overall very gray, like not black and white on this is how you should feel, and the more you learn about these characters, the more uncertain you feel about your feelings towards them. Critically, it did really well as of right now, 82% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics and 76% from audiences, and The Hollywood Reporter's chief TV critic called it full of dark twists and pleasures. But the linear ratings were, no surprise, rough. It was averaging only 400,000 same-day viewers, which is pretty bad. And the timing was also just terrible because USA Network around that time was actively pivoting away from scripted drama toward unscripted and live programming. So they were essentially getting out of the prestige drama game right when Dare Me showed up. So USA pulled the plug in April 2020. Now, what of course gave me and the other Dare Me fans hope was that when Dare Me hit Netflix in the US, it actually started picking up some steam. I believe it cracked the Netflix top 10 and people were discovering it and talking about it for the first time. And there was a moment where it really felt like maybe Netflix would do what they did with You and pick it up to give it a new life. And the producers and creators were actively shopping it around. But unfortunately, this never happened, and the show ended on a cliffhanger that still irks me to this day. And then we get to Stumble, the show that just got cancelled a few days ago, which stings a little bit more than others. Because Stumble is, or I guess I should say was, a single-camera mockumentary on NBC starring Jen Lyon as Coach Courtney, a former champion cheer coach who gets fired from her Texas college job for drinking with her cheer squad and ends up at a junior college where she has to rebuild from scratch. Kristen Chenoweth recurs as her former assistant coach who ends up taking over as lead coach, and Taryn Killam plays her love interest and a football coach at her old school. It premiered in November 2025, had 13 episodes, and was announced canceled May 1st, 2026. Out of these three shows, Stumble is the one that genuinely felt like it was set up to succeed, and there are two reasons why. Reason one is the format. Stumble was a mockumentary, and mockumentaries are hot right now. Abbott Elementary is of course one of the biggest comedies on television, but there's also St. Dennis Medical, The Paper, and Jury Duty. But reason two, Stumble is the closest a scripted show has ever come to one of those docuseries that actually works for cheer. Specifically, cheer. In January 2020, Netflix dropped a docuseries called Cheer, and it was a phenomenon. What made Cheer work was that it pulled the curtain back on a world most people had no idea existed, collegiate competitive cheerleading, but specifically at junior colleges. Like, we had this whole subculture where people were coming from all over the world to attend specific junior colleges for cheer, and the show really took its time getting to know these athletes. We learned the different reasons people came to cheer, and for some of them, it literally saved their life. We rooted for them as they went through the competition circuit working toward Daytona, and of course the routines were incredible to watch. But someone who really broke out of cheer, beyond the athletes themselves, was Monica, the head coach at Navarro. She became this cultural figure for the way she was almost a second mother to her athletes, but also gave them really tough love. She was the heart of the show in a lot of ways. Now, Stumble was almost a direct satire of Cheer, but in a loving way, and Monica's even an executive producer on it and has a cameo in, I believe, 2 episodes. And since she signed off on this, you can tell it's more of a love letter as opposed to just a satire. And the bones of Stumble are the same as Cheer. It's set at a junior college, it makes jokes pointing to the fact that, yeah, it's a junior college, but somehow people are a 3rd-year senior and have been there for like a decade. It shows how everyone comes from their own walk of life, their own background, and how they came to cheer for their own reasons. It also gives us a lot of underdogs to root for, and even has cheer influencers as characters. And it asks us to watch this group form into a family over the course of the season. And the show had real heart to it. There's this part, again, I won't spoil it, but let's just say one of the cheerleaders received some bad news. She ends up singing a song and sharing it with the group, and I actually cried. Like, mockumentaries shouldn't make me cry, but that just shows you the heart that was present throughout the show. The show really felt like a love letter to cheerleading, to junior college programs, to the docuseries that came before it, and to all the people that live in this world. But unfortunately, despite how good the show was and how passionate the fans were, it just wasn't enough. It wasn't able to stand out from the masses, and due to underwhelming viewership, it got cancelled as well. Rest in peace. So, where does that leave us? Well, with 3 scripted cheer shows that each had something different to offer, and 3 different approaches to make this world work in a fictional setting. All of which failed. Meanwhile, the docuseries side keeps succeeding. I don't have a clean answer for why this is, and I really wish I did. Maybe it's because fictional teen drama is just oversaturated and cheer-specific shows can't carve out room. But then again, which shows are out right now that are about fictional teams? I mean, there's Running Point, but that's more about the operations and business side. And there was Ted Lasso, but that ended a while ago, so I don't really know. Maybe it's just bad luck and timing 3 times in a row. Or maybe it's just because all 3 of these shows, Hellcats, Dare Me, Stumble, were on network or basic cable, and we all know network TV is dying. Like, every year, there are fewer and fewer people watching live broadcast television, and every year, more shows get cancelled. Because the linear ratings just don't justify them anymore, and even when audiences technically exist. Some shows still break through, of course, but most don't, which is just a sad reality of where television is in 2026. And meanwhile, every cheer docuseries that's more recent that's actually worked has been on streaming. Cheer, Cheer Squad, and America's Sweethearts were all on Netflix, and Spirit was on Peacock. So maybe scripted cheer could work, it just hasn't been given the chance to work in the right environment. Dare Me almost proved this. When it hit Netflix in the US after USA cancelled it, it cracked the top 10 and people were finding it. It just unfortunately couldn't get rescued in time. And yes, Stumble is on Peacock the day after it airs on NBC, sure, but Peacock isn't really operating at the same level of Netflix or Hulu or HBO Max in terms of how it builds audiences and how it commits to shows. It's a streamer in name, but it's still tied to NBC's broadcast schedule in a way that the others aren't. And while Spirit was on Peacock, it's not nearly the same level of breakout as the other 2 docuseries I mentioned. So maybe the real question isn't why fictional cheer keeps failing. Maybe it's what would happen if Netflix actually made one, or Hulu, or HBO. Somebody who can give it the space to grow an audience without needing it to win best ratings on a Friday night. What I do know is that there were people watching every single one of these shows, and people who want to see a cheer show succeed. And again, it absolutely should work. I mean, cheerleading is one of the most genuinely cinematic sports out there, with the music and the costumes and the danger and the energy and the face and the risk and the precision and the team dynamics and the stakes. Like, there's so much story there, and it's wild to me that fiction keeps not being able to find a way in. Or maybe it's really that we just keep handing it to networks that can't keep anything on the air anymore. And maybe eventually somebody on the streaming side will look at the docuseries numbers and go, wait, there's something here. So I'll keep watching whatever they make next, and when it gets canceled after 1 season, I'll probably be right back here. But maybe, just maybe, somebody will figure it out and we won't have to. Thank you all so much for watching to the end of this video. Definitely let me know in the comments if you've seen any of these shows, and if you have, what were your thoughts? And also let me know if there's something out there that I missed. I know in 2022, Netflix and BBC had a show called Get Even, or it was like Rebel Cheer Squad Get Even. I haven't seen that show myself, which is why I didn't cover it in the main portion of that video, but I know that's out there. It also seems to be a show where it's not directly about cheerleading, and cheerleading is kind of more the setting, and it's about these kids kind of standing up to bullies. That's another show that did not get renewed for season 2. Seems to maybe have been more of a mini-series, but regardless, it was only one season, so maybe we can just go ahead and add that one to the list as well. But yeah, anyways, thank you all again for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all on the next one.